We're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurialism. I think if 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 you guys listening are like Rob and myself, you come from different backgrounds when it comes to this topic.
Hmm.
For myself, um, I and Rob, you can share too before
Hmm.
we dive into some questions. But the history for myself, when I've heard of entrepreneurship, um, generally it wasn't something that was necessarily really talked about. Like for myself, growing
Hmm.
up, right? So we all have some sort of way that we think about everything in life because of the way that we grew up and our experiences
Hmm.
that we've had. So, based off my experiences, when I heard the word entrepreneur, it didn't really come with any like much of a positive side to it. It was
Hmm.
like, oh, you're an entrepreneur.
How's
So
that
you
going?
need money, or so
Yeah.
you don't like working with other people. You can't handle it. So you want to work for yourself.
Yeah.
Or you sell solar. Okay. um, no hate to the solar peeps. One of my best buddies is the best solar sales guy in the town.
Hey,
So
sales is a skill. Sales is a skill.
it is. And so again, this is why I say it's the surly episode
Yeah.
and love you guys, but I just got to be me. So,
Yeah.
so that's where I'm coming from. Right.
Hmm.
But now we hit 2025
Hmm.
and here I am, full-time dad for 3 years, looking out at the budget and realizing like, hey, I got some drive to create some side hustle here because
Hmm.
the it's not adding up. How do we get ourselves into the green here? And all of a sudden I'm like feeling that entrepreneurial spirit. So
Itch.
there's
Yeah.
obviously some drive behind that. But also, yeah, I want to give credit to people out there who maybe want to make a better product or want to make the world a better place. And
Hmm.
so that's where they're coming from. So why don't you share maybe from your angle? What was your
Okay.
experience with that idea?
So growing up, I mean, the turn didn't really happen till college, but as far as like, I guess you'd say the lifestyle, I grew up with a parent that did start their own company. So I did get an early view of kind of the behind the scenes. And I think a lot of the people, or in my experience, talking to people who are interested in starting their own thing, whatever it may be. And this could be a solopreneur, such as working from home, doing something virtual, or an entrepreneur. Maybe you have a brick and mortar or physical location and you have employees and so far and so forth. So I knew kind of the life, or the not the shiny life that most people can associate entrepreneurship with, because my dad was one. But it did spark the kind of the idea of what the other side of the fence is. And what I mean by that, a lot of us grow up elementary, high school, and we're kind of taught, and this is not the fancy terminology. So, like Travis said, this might be surly, but we're kind of taught to be a cog, right? We're kind of bred to eventually work in the workplace for someone, and not good or bad. By all means, I have plenty of friends that love that kind of context as far as what they do with their career. They still are fulfilling a passion. They are of service. And then there's the other track where it's kind of, you're taking a lot more risk, right? And maybe it's not a financial reward you're looking for, but maybe it's the context you're looking for. Maybe you want to do it a certain way. And so then you start kind of going into the entrepreneurial side of things. So for me, growing up in a household where I saw kind of the risk reward, I saw the sacrifices going into it, I wasn't really aware, right? Because we're talking toddler, elementary school. It wasn't until really high school where I kind of saw the options. Oh, like I could turn left or right at this point. What do I want to do? So I actually went to a university focused on entrepreneurship. So I went
Mm,
to school there thinking of about entrepreneurship, and we don't need to go deep down it, but there's like entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs, basically those who have like the spirit of an entrepreneur, but you work within a company. So you can still take a lot more responsibility, kind of head the ship, managerial position. So there's a lot of little deviations. So for me, it was already kind of under the skin from birth, knowing that I kind of wanted to do something. And getting out of school, I worked for a handful of companies. Eventually I noticed that the roles I would take were more solo, right? Like I was responsible for my own work. And it got to a point where I realized that the effort I put in didn't match the kind of expectations coming out from the company as a whole, as in like I could work extra hours, but I didn't see more benefit. So at that point, and I think this was like mid 20s, I decided to, like you, scratch that itch. And to kind of context too, if you're listening to this, we use a lot of different terminologies, right? Entrepreneurship, side hustle. It's just any time that you're willing to invest time and money in yourself, right? It may not be super big fruits, but if you're
Mhm.
putting time and resources into something that could potentially grow into something, I think that's what we're talking about, right? So side hustles, or maybe part-time jobs, or maybe something that turns into something like a full-time job. But so that's my background, my kind of exposure to entrepreneurship, and why I'm where I'm at as far as the track that I followed.
I like that you define that at the end, because that
Mm.
was what I was gonna throw out next. Was just to everybody who's listening. What do you think of when you hear the word entrepreneur?
Mm.
What description do you give to that?
Mhm.
What picture comes to mind when you think of that? Because all of a sudden now I have this new kind of imagery for what that looks like, because oh, I have a reason, I have a like a drive, I have some heart behind what I want to do, and it doesn't fit the mold necessarily for another career that's out there. And
Mhm.
so guess maybe I'm going to like start that bit up. Or on my end it's more of a creative artistic front. And so I want to like create my own style
Mhm.
stuff. And so um it didn't always look that way, and I think I almost like had a little bit. I didn't put much thought into it, but I had a little bit of like judgment, or like a preemptive like judgment to what that meant.
Mhm.
I guess so. I like the way that you describe all that. To be said, I like the way that you define that, um, because there are a lot of ways that we could be defining it, but that's how we'll talk about it from this point forward. Because
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know who you would, what would you even call those guys? Like, I think a lot of times that came up for me. The thought was, um, like entrepreneur. I'm thinking of like these guys that rub me the wrong way. They're like the ones who like, oh, they rent out this mansion, and they're like, you see bookshelf behind me?
I read all these books.
I made my first million after all you got to do is read these books. And and just like it's like, I got my Lamborghini here, and
Mhm.
all you got to do is follow these 10 steps. um
Yeah.
I don't know is there a word for those people?
I think they're salesmen, right? Because that's what they're doing. But
Yeah.
I think for me, a lot of the successful entrepreneurs, most people would never hear of them. Like you could be walking past the mall and you would never know that they own their own company or they have employees. Like you would never know. Whereas the ones that you do see on social media or you might hear, that's more personality than maybe problem solving, right? So I think a lot of entrepreneurs like yourself, like that want to get into something is because there's a certain problem that they have, a loved one has, or they've come across that the solution's currently out there that they can think of another solution, or maybe the solution isn't quite there yet, right? And they have an idea how to make that solution applicable to more people or easier to access. And so I think those are the ones that kind of start down that path. Whereas, like you said, the if reading books made you an entrepreneur, then librarians would be entrepreneur. My kids would be entrepreneurs, right? Like we all read books. So I think that's more of the sales part of it. And I think that gives a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And I also felt that way before starting kind of like my first business. But then once you understand that sales is part of educating potential clients, and then not only on what you do, but the problems that they may not know they have, then the pair of glasses or the framework's a little bit different. So you don't feel like you're a used car salesman, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
you're more of like let's hash this out together. And if the solutions I could potentially provide help you solve this long problem, then great, then let's work together. And if not, I'll be the first to tell you. But it's definitely a different pair of glasses, different framework, right? Whereas when I first got into business, man, yeah, like I would hire out for sales because I didn't want to talk to someone about that. But it's because of my own experience with bad salesmen, right? Or salesmen that felt made me feel about certain things versus when I came across individuals that were really trying to solve my problems with me. I didn't even know it was sales. I didn't know I knew there was a transaction there, but I was like, oh, thank you. This has been a thorn in my side for years, and I'm more than willing to invest my time and resources if you could finally help me overcome this. So from that standpoint, that shifted for me. So then the other businesses and then talking to clients and customers in the future was more about building a relationship so I can understand what your problem is. And then hopefully I can provide a solution. And if not, then we can still be friends, right? We can still have this connection, but it's no longer a transactional kind of a connection.
Yeah. 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 And I think, this is the thing that flabbergasts me, is this thought, like, I just don't understand how you can sniff out the salesy stuff, right? And what
Yeah.
you're talking about is the real deal, like the
Yeah.
relationship building, the
Yeah.
fixing the problems. And that obviously sells. But I'm like, who did they swindle in order to get money to like make these 25 ads? And like, well, and are they successful? I hope they're not, because what, like, do we really have to, this is Surly, sorry guys, Surly, maybe you're one of these people, I'm sorry. Why do we have to go to that level, but I digress. I really digress, because I guess what I want to get at is, I'm losing my train of thought here, and this is why I gotta reel it back in.
Gotcha.
Reel it back in. Take a breath, Travis. So with being a dad, I think
Mhm.
there are a lot more people, whether you're a full-time dad or whether you are uh, full-time something else and you have a family. um, there's more of an opportunity these days with working from home and
Mhm.
adjusted hours and all these things to like provide in additional ways, and so here I am kind of going, wow, I need to meet this financial need.
Mhm.
um my wife's already like pulling in all that she can, and she is rocking it. And
Mhm.
so the reality is we live in California, and the rates, if I had prepared for this better, which is not what you guys are going to normally hear, is not, this is more riffing, we're not prepared for certain things, but
We're
I
always
ran
ripping.
some statistics, right? We've all seen some of these reels out there on Instagram or whatever about, the percentage rate, like the percentage of your yearly income that it requires to buy a house these days is, astronomically higher than what it was 25 years ago.
Mhm.
And so we're in this boat where we're with a lot of other people going like, okay, how do we make some supplemental income and utilize what we have?
Mhm.
So um what's the question I'm trying to ask? Rob has a lot of experience in running businesses and building relationships and making that, I feel like, the more of the priority than
Mhm.
necessarily making the money. But when it comes down to it, I don't know. Maybe something's coming to your mindset, Rob. So I give you permission to cut me off if there's something you want to bring up in this regard. But
Mhm.
I guess my question is, for maybe some of those people out there who
Mhm.
don't really have any experience in the entrepreneurial realm or the
Mhm.
business realm, and they're going, how do I make a little extra funds for my family?
Mhm.
What might be some good questions to ask in order to, as they say in Robots from that movie a long time ago, see a need, fill a need.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
basically it. That's basically it. So, and the reality, like you talked about, is especially like in California, and I know a handful of other states, even with dual income, if you have kids, you're always going to be looking for something else, right? To
Yeah.
to help buffer or create a net, so to speak. And so I remember my mentors when I first started, when I was thinking about like, hey, and this is very contextual, right? So I was still having a full-time job. I worked full-time, but I still knew that we needed supplemental income. And so uh, it's always comes down to resources, time and money. So I didn't have a lot of time free. So it's like, okay, well, I can't take on another full-time or part-time job just because of the amount of hours plus kids. So then you look at, okay, resources, not only time as a resource, but your resources. So what are you good at? What do you have experience doing? What do you have a passion for? What do you stay up late researching? What would you do for free, as they always say? But that's not the only thing. Is doing for free is about passion and love for something. But what could you do for free that fills a need, right? And so my mind started that way. It was like, okay, what do I already have experience in? What am I good at? And then secondly, is there a need that could be filled with my talent or my experience? So be it design, coaching, stuff like that, stuff that I could easily replicate for multiple people. And especially with the online space now, that's much easier done than 10, 15 years ago. So I would say, like, first off, depending on where you're at, if you're looking to start a side hustle, to kind of create that Venn diagram, like, okay, what life experiences do I have? What am I good at? What comes easy to me that is difficult for others? There's people making money online selling Excel sheets, right? So like they could already do the background coding and stuff like that. So if there's something that you can do that literally takes you no time or very little effort because you've done it for so long, that there's a group of people that it will take a long time for them to learn, then that's something that Venn diagram kind of cross pollinates there, right? And then thirdly, you need to make an income from it. It'd be great if you are great at teaching watercolor painting to 3-year-olds, right? That's awesome that you do that to your kids. But could you realistically make money doing that with the time and resources that you have? Yes or no, right? So those three things: can you make money from it? Does it fill a need? And do you have an interest or a passion? Because there's going to be a lot more lows than highs starting off. And you need to have enough of, like you said, now I have a why. So you have to have a big enough why to get through those humps. And early on, someone said this to me and it stuck. It's like, it's going to be hard both ways, working for someone else or working for yourself. And so if it's going to be hard both ways, might as well do something on the side that you enjoy doing. So when it's hard, it's not that bad, right? Versus getting another part-time job that you hate doing. Might as well put time and resources somewhere that you enjoy. So I'd say that, like, that's where you would start, is look at kind of if there's a local need or even a virtual need, like a virtual assistance, right? Could you help out people in your neighborhood or around the area? Or it might seem silly, but like, are things that have come up in my minds of years past, like, hey, we have neighborhood, lots of pet owners, a lot of older pet owners that they can't walk their dogs. I've got teenage kids. Hey, let's go door knocking. Let's see how many of the pet owners would love for them to walk their dog a couple of times. And then, oh, my teenager has friends. So we start to grow from there. So there's always, my head's always kind of cranking on problem solving that way. So I would just look at your area, your core group of friends and family and coworkers first. If you see kind of a common denominator as far as a problem, that'd be the first thing I would approach. And then you just grow from there, right? So for me, all the businesses I've started out as a problem solving, right? I saw a problem that I think I could potentially create a better solution for, and then it just went from there. So step by step, and then you notice that the same kind of setup happens with different problems as far as the business. But one of the big things is, I know when I first started, or I've helped other people kind of start their side hustle, so to speak, is it can be very overwhelming, right? Like, oh, business license, and do I need a permit? And then how do I get a first contract or this and that? And that overwhelmingness is
Mm,
what stops a lot of people. So in the
yep.
beginning, do it for free, right? Don't even worry about like the transactions and creating a business license. Like, see if there's even a demand, right? Go walk the dogs. If you get the knock back about walking the following week, then you might have something there. And that's way better than putting all this time and resources into something that 6 months later is a flop because you didn't kind of test the water. So always kind of test the waters with the free verse, to see if there's actually a demand for it. Another way to do that is to see if other people are doing it. Now, if other people are doing it, then there's probably a problem that is being solved. So that's kind of like where I would start. And of course, there's a lot of layers that we could go on and on about taking the next steps. And then, okay, like, I tested this out and a couple of my friends are interested. Like, what's the next step? But the very first step is just to start that grab a piece of paper, create that 3-circle diagram that kind of crosses in the middle, like stuff that you really love doing or interested in, have experience doing. stuff that people are currently struggling with, and then will it make money? Like, can you make an income for that? And all of this, literally, we have the World Wide Web at our fingertips. You could just spend an hour on a Saturday researching. So to find what you want to do usually takes the longest, right? To find your why, or maybe you're passionate about something. Like recently, I had a talk with a good friend of mine's that he's also like, it's funny that we talked about this topic. Is I had coffee with him over the weekend, and man, I've got this itch. My kids are older. You know, he has a lot of experience in the product design area. And it's like, what could we start? Like, hey, start with what's bugging you now. Like, hey, I'm a big mountain biker, but I've got issues with elbows. Like, what can we do for that? And so, working on things that you already have challenges with is a perfect place to start.
Yeah, that reminds me of another conversation I heard. My wife was listening to something, and they were talking about, by relieving the pain or the pressure from someone, like they're going to
Yeah.
spend money on that. That's
Yeah.
what they're. If you are solving a problem for someone,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the money will most assuredly be spent in some way, shape, or form. Now, that's my problem. Is all of my cool ideas, they don't solve problems. They they just it starts with, oh, wouldn't this be cool?
Wouldn't this be nice? Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
that's the truth about it. It's great. I mean, I've had journals full of like quote unquote great ideas, but it doesn't fulfill those three kind of Venn diagram markers, right?
and
And
we
so it's
like
not a
Venn
bad,
diagrams. Venn
yeah,
diagrams are fun. If you
it's
guys
not bad
haven't
to have those
physically
things.
written one out, you
Oh
got to
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's not bad to have all those cool ideas, but one, they need to make money, because if you're going to put all your time and effort into something, you need to get, financially supported through it. Not to say that it's a big money maker, but when people pay money or invest their time into something, that's when you know it's worth it, right? Like if you look at your life where you spend money or time, be it relationships or a service provider, like then that's how you know there's worth. If people are not going to spend money on it, or they're not going to stay on a call or jump on a call with you, then it's not worth it, right? So you need to find something that both time, which is more expensive than people's money.
Yeah, yeah. So, man, that's great, and that echoes with some of the things that, or matches up with some of the other things I've heard.
Mhm.
So I think the first thing, then the takeaway for someone who's looking into doing something is write it out.
Mhm.
Just kind of assess what are the skills. If I'm hearing you correctly, what are the skills you have? What are the pain points that people have, problems
Mhm.
people have, and does it make money?
Mhm.
Um, and go from there.
Yeah.
Um, Now, yeah, if it doesn't fulfill one of those areas, then maybe that doesn't mean that you just throw it out either. I think maybe
A
you
lot of
don't.
times it becomes a hobby,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So if it doesn't fulfill all three, then it becomes a fun hobby. So for instance, I might have a pain point of, I don't know, let's say exercise wise, right? My pain point is like, hey, I don't exercise enough. Is it a problem that people have? Yeah, but maybe I don't have enough experience programming for other people. So then it won't make money, right? I don't have enough of a qualification for that. So I might do it for free for buddies. And I'll do it for free for buddies for a couple of years. And then those buddies tell other buddies. And then all of a sudden there becomes traction. Then I have qualifications, right? I now have enough experience. And then I turn it into a moneymaker. But in the beginning, it might just be a hobby, right? So don't be afraid to try things out if it's not necessarily making a lot of money, if you don't have the experience, right? Because that's why I always recommend people start with stuff they know, right? So for instance, like, oh, I don't know what to do, but what have you been doing for like a decade? Oh, I fish every weekend. Okay, so let's look at fishing. What problems come up with fishing? So always start with stuff that you already currently are doing, just because it speaks louder to have that experience there. And I don't misunderstand expertise with experience, right? So experience just is in where I'm talking from is that you have years of doing it, right? You may not do it well, but you have years of doing it. So you've seen the problem over and over again. Where an expertise is throughout time, they've created better solutions for something. So that would be more of an expertise, right? So
Mm,
start with creating experience first, right? Like, oh, I've got this problem with fly fishing, but you've only won once, right? So I'm not gonna listen to your social media or buy a product if you only bid once. And then through experience, that's where you start getting the life lessons of stuff. You start problem solving. And then through solving other people's problems often enough and better, that's when you become an expert, right? So that's kind of like the differentiation, at least when I talk to people about, but I have a lot of experience. Yeah, but you're not really an expert yet because you haven't solved anybody's problems. You have a lot of experience with a problem, but you need to solve the problem, right? You need to solve the problem.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to be kind of good at something in order
Yeah.
for that. That's one of the circles, right? So
Yeah.
if you're not good
Exactly.
at it, well, then you've noticed you know the problem and it could make money, but you can't pull it off yet.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I like kind of throwing some hypotheticals into that Venn diagram. That's fun. So you guys write out your own and see if it checks off the list.
Yeah, and
And
if this is a topic you guys are interested in diving more into, let us know in the comments. Anything more specific, like I said, Travis and I. The cool thing about us is we we're almost like two train cars on the same train track, just at different stops in life, right? So that's basically what it is. So the cool thing is you'll get very different perspectives, but still along the same track, if that makes sense. So if you have questions about this, we're always an open book. Let us know in the comments. Like I said, I could talk about this for days. This is what I do as one of the things that I do is kind of help people find out what they want to do and solve the problems that are stopping them from doing what they want to do. But yeah, so if like I said, it's a side hustle. And unfortunately, I think one of our first episodes we talked about is the hustle culture. But if you are going to start something on the side, it doesn't take side effort. It takes a lot of effort, right? So just know that, like, if anything is going to come to fruition, it's going to take a lot of time and effort to do so. But if it's worth it, then it's worth it, right? So
yeah, and if that hustle is for good reason, right? You know,
mhm.
there's hustling just because that's what society's doing, and you're just like, oh yeah, I want to just make money because that's what everybody else says. Well, that might not be the best reason compared to say, hey, I really want to do this because I want to improve myself in this way, or I want to fulfill this need, or I would like to provide for my family in X, Y, and Z. You know,
You know what? And I think you just said it right there. I think the biggest one of the aha moments for me, as far as the rat race, hustle culture, and we talked about this before in a previous podcast, is you said it, fulfillment. A lot of times, if you just chase the dollar signs and you can make a lot of money now virtually really, really fast, but you'll notice that you're unfulfilled, right? That scratch was never really itched. Whereas if you kind of approach it to like really have a passion for solving a certain problem for yourself, for loved ones, for a group, then what happens is the fulfillment comes first if the financial gain comes or it doesn't. And that's something that keeps you on the track. Whereas I've known entrepreneurs in the past made a lot of money, but unfulfilled, and that fizzles out quite quickly. That's where we start talking about burnout, things like that. So yeah, fulfillment is huge, right? Doing something that's going to take time and effort, it's great. But if it doesn't fulfill you as a person, then it's kind of like digging your own hole, so to speak, right?
yes. So we'll say that's the first of many, maybe many
Mhm.
conversations about the entrepreneurship in one way, shape, or form. So, yep, let us know if you want to hear more about that or dive into a specific topic, maybe about that as well.
Yeah,
And,
just our point of views being like parents and dads and kind of that juggling aspect of it, we could definitely talk about
well, as per the usual,
that.
remember we are not professionals.
No, we're not gurus by
We're
any
just
name calling for sure, but we're just
two dads
dads
in
in
real
real
life.
life. That was good. That was better. We got that.